So I found on the web this handy API.openweathermap.org. They're actually sponsoring this talk. No, I'm kidding. I just found them randomly and set up a quickie little developer account there. And it looks like their main reason for being is returning JSON, and that's awesome. So it looks like this. And in fact, if you'll probably want to get from the RSVP stuff or from the mobiledev.guru, you'll want to, or devmobile.guru, get the download the actual PDF and cut and paste this thing because it's got my API ID, and you know you could go create your own account and all that stuff at openweathermap.org if you want, or you can just borrow mine. I'll change it so that I don't start getting charged for it. But for tonight, you guys can use it. It's okay. Now, actually, they never collected a credit card, so I feel confident that I'm good. But in here, this is JSON. So if you're familiar with JSON, this is pretty straightforward, right? Even if you aren't, it's still grokkable, right? You've got the outer curly braces for the outer class, and then it's telling you the coordinates of where it is. And then information about the weather and the temperature and all that stuff, right? So really, what do we need here? Right? What's our next step into getting the weather displayed? Well, yeah, we already have the activity. So what we need is a web client, right? An HTTP client. There is one built into Android, but it's kind of arcane and unwieldy. So I like to use, for something simple like this, I like to use the one from Apache, right? What we're going to do now is we're going to tell the build system that we want to pull in this library, right? And it's going to actually go out. This is if you've ever used Maven, right? This is the Gradle uses that implementation, right? So it's just going to go out and pull out of the Maven repository this Commons, the Apache Commons IO. So I'm gonna, oops, all right. I'm gonna figure out how to work my presentation. All right, I'm gonna copy this little bit of code here, right? And I'm gonna paste it into the build file, right? So I'm gonna go into my project, and there's a couple Gradle.build files, right? And that can be confusing. You want the one that is under the app directory, right? And it's called build.gradle. Open that up. And in the dependencies section over here, I'm going to add that line that I copied, right? And that's going to say, at compile time, go out to the main repository, look in the Commons IO group, find the library named Commons IO, and grab version 2.5. Okay, so now that is going to be part of our project. And so I can say sync now, click that, and it's going to go out and grab the file. All right, so there we go. That's been pulled in, and we have that library available to us. So now it gets super easy to get that JSON string. And you can tell by the way I've slowed my talking that I am trying to read my notes and talk at the same time. Sorry. All right. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. So the question was when I put this in here, does that go to a common area? And I can answer for Mac and Linux that it goes into a .maven directory in your home directory. There's probably an equivalent in Windows. And then any project that uses that version of that jar will have it. You know, go, oh, I need this library, and I don't really want to pay for in-flight Wi-Fi, but oh well, because it's, I just didn't have it. I've never had it on the on the laptop. So IOUtils is the class name of the utility file from Commons IO. Now, instead of typing in cold, we can actually get the JSON file, right? So we're going to say JSON. That's just going to be a string that we're going to create. We'll just go ahead and make it a string. Equals IOUtils. So the type ahead thing saw that I was typing IO, looked through all my libraries and said, oh, I think you want this class. Good, thanks, I do. And dot toString, because we're just going to take that whole thing and pull it in that whole URI string. All right, that whole URL. So it needs to be URL. So new URL. And oops, I need to import URL. Option enter for me, Alt enter for you Windows folks. Import class. And now I need the string. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my presentation here and go there and grab it, cut and paste it, because I can't remember all that gobbledygook. Go back over there, paste it in. It's just a string. It's URL. And I'm going to tell it that this is in UTF-8. All right. It's got this nasty looking red underscore that, you know, and would make you think that maybe I spelled something wrong. But basically that's just telling me that I need to put it, that this throws an exception, right, that I need to catch. So I'm going to option enter on there, and we're going to catch that exception. We've got the string now. Okay, so now let's just, I can just do log dot, oops, log, all right, no, I haven't imported it yet, so I can hit enter here and just say, yeah, that's the log I want, dot D for debug. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to say activity. So I know that's coming out of my activity. And the string, so JSON equals JSON, right? Okay, so now when we click, and then what I want to do here is say, you know, just some temporary confirmation that I clicked it, because we're really going to have to parse the JSON before we can display anything, right? Right. So I'm going to say temperature dot set text. Got it. Right. So now I'm going to run, and
I think that last line of set call ready to call, so it doesn't override your top.
oh, you're right. Yes, yes, yes. I do. Thank you. I'll do that now. All right, here we go. I commented that out with the command slash, or I think it's alt slash for Windows folks. All right, so let me try that again. Let's go. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a couple things. This run is kind of what's happening. This is the console output from the tools that are running on the laptop. Okay, this Android monitor is the console output from the stuff that's running in the emulator or on your phone that's attached. Okay, so that's basically your log output. All right, so now I'm going to hit the button, right, and we hit refresh. Okay, we hit refresh. Oh, it crashed. I'm going to act surprised. All right, I actually got a comment back in the post-class comment cards where someone said, Jeff makes a lot of errors during the class. Kind of showing you how to debug, but okay. We'll go up here and we'll say, what happened? We'll look at the exception that got thrown, and it gets logged very nicely. It says, what? Yeah, let's read this. Oh, Android.os network on main thread exception, right? So even though I'm calling this in an inner anonymous class, that's still happening in the main thread. The main thread is the UI thread. And to prevent angry users, Google has said there shall not be any network access in the UI thread. There's a couple other restrictions like that, but just none. Not allowed. Okay? So what do we have to do? Right? Put it in a thread. Yes, we could just throw this in a thread, which is what I do in the week-long class, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to skip ahead a few steps, and we're going to put it in a service. Okay? And we're going to launch that service in the background, and that's going to do our internet connection. You ready for that? All right, let's go. Source, main, Java. It's going to be a Java class, right? And I'm going to put it in the same package as our app. A lot of times you probably want to separate that out a little bit more when it gets bigger, but for now, let's just leave it here. So I'm going to say new, and I'm going to go down here to these Android templates, and I'm going to say it's going to be a new service, right? And I'm going to make it an intent service. For now, I'm not going to go into in depth of what an intent is, but it's basically a internal messaging in Android. Okay, so intents fly all over the place in Android across apps and inside of apps. An intent is actually what launches the app. So they're important, and an intent service basically is something that can be launched whenever an intent happens. So I'm going to call this the weather intent service, and I'm going to let it do my templates for me. All right, and it does. This is one of those like things where it does a little bit more than I want in terms of a template, but it's basically setting you up so that you could have two different things happening, like temperature and precipitation, at the same time. But we're just going to do one thing to make it easier on ourselves. So an intent can have an action, right? And so our action is just going to be the weather action. So I'm going to rename this. It's real easy. You right click on it and say rename or refactor rename. And it's going to be action temperature. Good. All right. And then this is just an internal string, but what the heck. I'll let the internal. I'll do that. Just in case anything shows up in an exception or something, we'll know what it's talking about. I can remove the to-do and the comment, and then I'm going to remove the extra baz. That's not absolutely necessary. There's no parameters here, so I would suggest that if you do this, if you want to add capabilities to this app, that you would pass along the zip code that you want the weather for, right? And that would be a parameter. But for now, I'm just going to get rid of that. Intent service has to have the constructor that gives it a name, right? And that's handy because it's going to show up in logging and stuff like that, right? And what we have here is a helper method, right, that will allow us to just make a quick call from the UI to deal with all this intent drudgery, right? Creating the intent and all that. So it's all set except that we don't need the parameters for this, right? And then we'll eventually, instead of calling it foo, let's call it temperature. So it's. I'll just change the text. All right, there we go. All right, and again, we didn't need this other baz thing here that they put in as sample code. I'll just get rid of that.
Why is it baz, not ball?
Very good question. I have no idea. That was, yeah, you'll have to ask Google folks. And then we don't have to worry about pulling out parameters, right, or passing them into the thing. And we actually don't want to call it handle foo. We want to call it handle weather. Refactor, rename, and rename. Oh, it's up the top. Handle weather. All right. Again, so we don't need all this extra baz stuff. I'm going to ditch it. So, all right. So this part here that's overridden, right? It's an override of a method that's defined an intent service. That gets called by the operating system, basically, right? By the framework when your intent gets sent, right? So now we're going to receive, when we receive the weather intent, we're going to go and perform, we're going to go and check and see the action we want to, we only have one. It's an action temperature, but I'm leaving this set up for you to expand later if you want. And we're going to call the handle action weather, right? Right there. And this gets called. So this is happening. This ultimately right here is where it starts in the background thread. Okay? So all the stuff we dealt with prior to this helper function up here, that happens in the UI thread. But then it's going to, basically it's going to hand something off to the framework and say, all right, call back this service in a separate thread and go off and do some work. So now I'm going to get rid of more Baz stuff here. All right, and right now it's just throwing an unsupported exception. That's not what we want it to do. We want it to actually pull in the JSON, right? So let's go do that. We're going to go back over to temperature activity, and I'm going to pull this code out of here, right? And I'm going to put it in to the weather. So sorry for those of you that were typing as I typed in the bad code into the activity, but I've just moved it, right? And now it's going to say, oh wait, you just pasted in something that imports stuff. That's cool, like I want it. All right, and oh wait, temperature doesn't exist in here, so we'll delete that, right? But we're still logging. Okay, so basically now we're just going to go out to that web service, pull down the JSON, and we'll say we'll log this as an intent service. And I think that should work. Oh wait, yeah, I haven't gotten there yet. That's the next lab. So right now we're just going to, we got to call that, right? That's easy here. We'll go and call that helper function. So we'll have weather intent service dot start weather, and I forgot to re-clear out the parameters that we don't need, but it's asking for a context. Luckily enough, an activity is a context. It's a subclass down the line of a context. So I'll just type this here. That's all I got to do, and then I'll go back over into here and get rid of the extra parameters that we don't need. Okay. I'm going to do one more thing. Is I'm going to put, right now this is like somewhere in Colorado. It's not very interesting weather. I'm going to put Columbia in there. That's the zip code. All right. So now if we go back here, let's see, what's it complaining about? Oh, okay. So here's the trick of using inner anonymous classes, right? So I said this here, right? That's the this of the inner anonymous class, not the activity. So if you say the class name of temperature activity dot this, it means okay, this, not this. All right. So I'm going to clean up a little bit of my imports because I'm compulsive about that. I'm not doing anything with the temperature. I think now I'm just going to say here for now I'm going to say temperature dot sent or set text to be sent, right? And let's see, and now we can run this. Press a button here. Okay, that one, use the same one for future. Go. All right, so now I'm going to pull up the Android monitor because that's going to come out of the emulator. Okay, and I'm going to hit refresh. Wait, where am I? Refresh. Oh, crash. Darn, what happened? Does anyone have a guess? All right, so what's the error here is it says intent service, let's see, process Permission denied. Why? Because anything in Android has got to have permission. When you install an app in Android, it asks you, "Can I access your contacts? Can I access the internet? Can I do whatever else?" You have to put that in the manifest, or we don't get installed. So really super quick tour of the manifest, right? So that is stored right here, right, in that source directory. We'll open up the manifest. Here it is. This is actually not the complete manifest. Part of that is generated by the Gradle stuff, right? So it puts like the version string and stuff like that in there. So what we need, all we need to do to get to allow to request permission from the user is say uses permission. Oops, come on. All right, this is easier than I'm making it look. Really, it is. Oh, it's lowercase u. That's why. All right. Uses permission, name, and internet. It's pretty much the first one that anybody ever uses. Okay. So now it's going to break. Now it's going to work. So launched it. It's giving me output here from Logcat. I hit refresh. It says sent here, right? Non-blocking, sent. And then here, I'm not returning it back to the UI, but it still should go out into the log here, right here. So, what can we do? Oh, opportunity to debug. I'm going to put a breakpoint there. I'm going to run it in the debugger. I just put right in that margin. I clicked, and it put a little red dot. That means it's going to stop there. It takes a second or two more to launch the emulator. Okay, now when I hit refresh, we get to see what happens. All right, refresh. Oh, it stopped there. Okay, it's doing something. Go next. Bang. Doesn't do anything. Okay, exception. What does it say? Yeah, probably. Yep, timeout. Unknown host exception. Okay. We weren't connected to the internet when I launched my emulator, so it didn't get DNS. Crap. All right, so here we go. All right, I easily fixed. Close this up. There we are. And let's make sure I have internet. Let's see. Boot.com, because they always have something new. Okay, I'm connected to the internet. Launch it again. I'll just go ahead and launch it in the debugger because I'm not 100% confident right now. Well, let me. So again, like I said, you almost always want to launch your emulator from here, not from the prompt in the IDE. It's nice to just have it all running and ready to go first. All right. I still have my breakpoint. No, I took it off. All right, hit refresh. Yay! Okay, here we are. Woohoo! This is so anticlimactic, but it did what we want, right? So now we have JSON equals this stuff, right? And the weather, and in there somewhere is the temperature. So, very good. All right, so we'll let you code that up. Another 15 minutes, and then the last section. We're going to send that data back to the UI through a broadcast intent. All right? Yeah, have anybody any questions? How do I do this again? Oh, right. So if you right-click on the package name in the file browser, right? You say New, slide all the way down to service. It's an intent service. And select service and then the one that's parentheses intent. Yes, you're not going to want to type that in, are you? Can I email it to you? All right. Yeah.